There's one more outburst from you, Mr. Erickson. I'll hold you in contempt of court, said the judge, his face turning red. I had to stifle a laugh at his almost comical expression. Mr. Young, I strongly advise you to control your client. I had been warned several times, but it's hard not to speak out when it's part of your vocabulary, especially dealing with a judge like this. Someone once told me they'd never met anyone who said it more than I do. Maybe I do say it a lot, but it just comes out without thinking. As I started to speak, I saw the judge tense up, and my lawyer, Bert Young, warned me not to speak so openly unless I wanted to spend the night in jail. The courtroom record seemed to suppress a giggle, likely anticipating a torrent of F-bombs. My ex-best friend, his wife, and my soon-to-be ex-wife looked nervous. Robin, my soon-to-be ex, looked ashamed and downtrodden. Bruce sat there with defeat on his face, and Cheryl, his wife, looked visibly pissed off. She clearly didn't like their personal issues being aired out in public. You might be wondering how I ended up being scolded by this judge in a black robe. It all began on a certain day, let's call it Tuesday because it was a Tuesday. My name is Jack Erickson, I'm 32 years old, and I'm a foreman in the maintenance department of the city of Stonemore, Colorado. I started working for the city 2 days after graduating from high school, in winter. In winter, I plow the main roads. In summer, I do whatever needs to be done. Robin works a few hours a week at the church to break away from household chores. Our maintenance department is divided into 4 quadrants, each with a supervisor and a foreman. I'm not the supervisor because I didn't go to college. I rely on common sense and steer clear of office politics whenever possible. Typically, if a supervisor tells the crew to do something, they'll usually check with someone like me first. They lived behind the McBains with his wife Cheryl. All 4 households got along so well that we had no fences separating our backyards. Bruce and I have been friends since middle school. I got him into more trouble than he could handle, and to make matters worse, his parents were very religious, while mine weren't very concerned about God. My dad often told me that as long as I didn't get a girl pregnant or cost him money, he didn't care what I did. If Bruce's parents were going to blame him for something, I would take the blame. I knew they hated me, so their opinion didn't matter. Bruce grew up as religious as his parents. He went to Bible college and became a preacher at a local church. I only go to church on Easter and Christmas. Robin, on the other hand, attends church religiously. While Bruce was at Bible college, he met Cheryl. Cheryl could have been a Playboy playmate. She's 5 feet 7 inches, 110 pounds, with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a 36-24-34 figure. Despite her looks, Prayer Machine Bruce is like the Ian to my Yang. There wasn't anything I wouldn't do for him, or so I thought. When I got home on Tuesday evening, I had to heat up leftover meatloaf from Sunday for dinner. I didn't mind, but my wife hadn't cooked a weekday meal in months. I wanted to drink a 12-pack, but the red mark on the calendar meant I could only have 1 beer since I was on emergency standby. I ate while Robin showered, wishing she'd pay as much attention to me as she did to the shower. It was 7 p.m., and I doubted I'd see her again that night. She gave me a half-hearted, "How was your day?" when I got home. This routine had been going on for months, and I was tired of it. Our intimate life was the worst part. We used to make love 3 or 4 times a week, but in the past 3 months we'd had sex twice and 2-week hand jobs. She barely noticed me anymore, and that night was no different. So I watched the Rockies play. While watching the Padres on TV, I wished for a Jägermeister around 10 p.m. I was just about to go to bed when my phone rang. It was City County Dispatch about a water main break near Birchwood Mall. I packed some snacks and headed out to the city yard. There, I got the keys and waited for my crew, which included guys from every quadrant, a city water department supervisor, and 4 of their men. I hooked up a trailer to the dump truck, loaded a backhoe, and we headed to the break site. The street was flooded because the Northwest crews hadn't cleared the storm sewers, so I called for a vacuum truck. At 1 a.m., I started breaking pavement with the backhoe. Progress was slow due to the water. By 3 o'clock, we had exposed the pipe and started hauling away the mud. By 8:45 a.m., the water guys had reconnected the pipe and tested the fix. The building inspector approved the repair around 9:30, and by noon we were ready to repave, since a contractor would handle the paving. I returned the equipment to the yard by 1 a.m. At 1:45, I pulled into my driveway, knowing I was off work until Friday. Inside, Robin was nowhere to be found. She was off doing whatever she did all day, which didn't seem to include housework. I grabbed a beer and a sandwich. As I closed the fridge, I heard the unmistakable sound of a woman having sex coming from upstairs. "No wonder you don't sleep with me anymore," I muttered as I grabbed my Kimber .45 from the coat closet and headed upstairs. The noise grew louder as I approached the master bedroom, but it was empty. I checked the bathroom, also empty. I had 2 choices left, the guest bedroom or Robin's craft room. The guest bedroom was empty too. I kicked open the craft room door, weapon ready, but it was empty as well. The sound was loudest there, and I noticed the window overlooking the backyard was open. I looked out and saw something shocking. Tommy and Brenda, our neighbors, were in the backyard. McBain children were having love-making by their pool. Tommy was a college junior and Brenda was about to start her freshman year. She'd had a crush on me. It hit me. I was witnessing inbreeding. I thought this only happened in places like Mississippi. I muttered I knew I shouldn't watch, but it was like a train wreck. I wondered if Tom or Jerry knew this was happening in their home. I doubted it. Even the wildest people I knew wouldn't condone it there. Watching us look at them, Bryn said to Tommy, "Oh hell, that's so hot," said Brenda. She looked to her left, and I saw Bruce's bare back in his house's upstairs window. He was clearly drilling someone. I thought I'd hang around hoping to see Cheryl unclothed. Then Bruce turned around. Holy crap. I yelled so loudly that the love-making stopped below. Bruce was pounding my Robin. I froze, unsure what to do. I aimed at Bruce, but was distracted by Tommy, and Brenda dashed naked towards their house. I glanced back, intending to confront Bruce, but they had vanished. "Damn shameless woman," I shouted, grabbing my Mossberg and loading it with buckshot. "Bruce and his promiscuity won't get away with this. Even Cheryl's cat and parakeet are fair game now." I stormed out, pistol tucked into my jeans. Halfway down the driveway, I halted, finally comprehending everything. My home was in disarray, meals were neglected, and my little Johnny was left unattended. All because Bruce was wearing her out. She took countless showers, seemingly draining the reservoir. I climbed into my truck, leaving tire marks on the street as I sped towards Lowe's. Along the way, I processed it all. She never cooked because of Bruce, and she couldn't clean while they indulged in their escapades. The biggest betrayal came from the two people I trusted most. At Lowe's, I made a beeline for the door section and picked up 3 new lock sets. Jeannie at the paint counter waved, and I barely noticed, half-heartedly waving back. When I got home, Brenda and Tommy were waiting in my driveway. What do these perverts want? I wondered. They looked like they were going to the gallows. Brenda offered a sheepish smile. "Weck, sorry to have disturbed you, Mr. Erickson. We didn't mean to offend you. It's just," I cut her off. "I don't care if you screw each other until your holes turn to tunnels. It's none of my business. You guys aren't even on my radar of problems right now." They walked away sheepishly. I felt Brenda's eyes on my hips. As I went inside, I set the lock sets down and went to find my tools in the kitchen. My blood boiled. Bruce was sitting at my table. "What are you doing in my house, you curse-sucker?" I demanded. "I came to talk to you as a friend." Bruce replied. "Friend?" I laughed bitterly. "With friends like you, who needs enemies? Do you think I'm just going to say hey?" "Bruce, how were my wife's holes this morning?" "Jack, it doesn't have to be this way," he said. "Your right, hand me that butcher knife," I instructed, sliding a knife across the table. He looked at it, and then at the kimber in my hand. "Come on, Jack," he said shakily. "You can't seriously expect pick it up. A hole. You love Jesus so much. I want you to meet him now. Pick up the knife and let me put the make my day law to use, you trespassing piece of pious crap," I ordered. Bruce jumped up and ran for the door. He stopped on the porch and turned back. "Jack, we've been friends forever. Are you willing to throw that away? I lost 2 people today, Bruce, but I think when I get past all of it, I'll realize it's no real loss." "Where's Robin?" I asked. "She's at my house. She's afraid to come over here," he admitted. "Tell her she has 5 minutes to get over here if she wants any chance of staying married to me. Now get off my property before I risk prison, just to find some peace of mind." I warned Bruce to leave, and I wondered how long it would take Robin to return home after her infidelity. For minutes later, I heard her crying and sniffling from afar. People passing by must have wondered what was happening as they saw her tearfully walking up the sidewalk. She reached out to hug me, but I stepped back firmly. "Keep your hands to yourself," I commanded. "But I love you, baby. I just want to be with you," she pleaded. "Let's go inside. The neighbors don't need to hear our business," I said, leading the way to the living room and settling into my favorite chair. She sat on the love seat. "Would you sit next to me?" she asked. "Hell no. I don't want to be near you," I refused. I disliked awkward silences, so I spoke up. "How long have you been sleeping with him? He's your best friend." "For crying out loud." "Jack was my friend," she corrected me. "Friends don't sleep with their friends' spouses," I added. "It was just sex." "I still love you," she insisted. "What a load of nonsense. Just sex? Whoever came up with that excuse deserves a reality check," I snapped. "No need to be angry. You still have me." "I'm not going anywhere," she assured me. "Yes, you are. By choosing Bruce over our marriage, you've made your choice. You can't spare 5 minutes for me, but you can make time for him whenever it suits you." "How wonderful," I retorted. A headache was starting to form, so I put my head in my hands. She began to rise from her seat. "Sit back down and explain yourself," I demanded. "I hope it's worth throwing away a decade of marriage." "I'm not ending our marriage. We can stay married. I'll just have sex with Bruce. I don't love him. He's just a physical outlet," she rationalized. "He says he can meet your needs once or twice a week." "How kind of him. I think I'll find someone else to meet my needs," I replied sharply. "No, you're my husband. No one else should sleep with you. We're still married," she argued. "Not for much longer. Ex-wife seems more fitting for someone like you and that hypocrite, Bruce Harris," I declared. "Please don't talk like that. I love you with all my heart, but I also love Bruce's physical attributes," she confessed. "You just need to understand Bruce's proposal. We can all be happy." "I understand perfectly. You want to have your cake and eat it too," I concluded. "It's not like that at all," she protested. Then explain it to me, I challenged. I can't. You'd never… Well, I think Bruce wants me back in 3 minutes, she stammered. What the hell are you babbling about? I asked, seeing the shock on her face. You've never called me names or talked this way to me. What's gotten into you? Let's see. I haven't slept since 6 a.m. yesterday, and I worked all night. Or maybe it's because I came home to find my wife having sex with someone else. You idiot, I snapped. She started crying and headed for the door. That's it. Go. Bruce, go satisfy your cravings, I shouted as she reached for the door. I don't see why we can't just keep things as they are. You're not home all the time. I can be with him while you're at work, she said, trying to reason with me. I slammed the door so hard I thought it might splinter. Screw you. Go enjoy your affair. I yelled so loudly my throat ached. I sat with my back against the door, feeling ashamed. Dad would have given me a hiding if he'd seen me in tears, so I pulled myself together and focused on my tasks. I changed the locks on all the doors and reprogrammed the garage opener. By 4 o'clock, I decided to take a break. Exhausted, I needed to sit down. I flipped on the TV and landed on Jerry Springer. How fitting, a show about cheating spouses and dysfunctional families. I didn't make it far into Jerry before dozing off. When I woke up, it was past 9, and there was knocking at my door. I got up and answered it. It was Bruce. What do you want? I should punch your lights out, I said angrily. I need a favor, Bruce responded calmly. If you're not taking the cake, I don't have a mistress for you to cheat with. Try elsewhere, I retorted. Robin needs you. She's in tears. Can't you call her and reassure her that you're not angry, that everything will be okay? He pleaded. I'm done with both of you. What's Cheryl going to say when she finds out you're sleeping with Robin? I asked. She knows. She's okay with it. She's relieved the sneaking around can stop. She wants you two to stay together, he admitted. Get off my porch. Tell her I'll have everything packed on the porch by morning. Any further knocking will not be welcome, I warned firmly before slamming the door. Grabbing a cold beer, I found myself ascending with the six-pack to Robin's craft room. From there, I watched through the window, realizing I needed evidence for the impending divorce. I grabbed the camcorder and aimed it towards Bruce's house. Observing Bruce's residence through the night vision, I noticed movement next door where Jerry McBain, in a robe, approached the pool. Hoping she wore a swimsuit underneath, I assessed her appearance. Jerry might be the kindest person, but her appearance didn't do her any favors. Unlike her daughter, her body didn't distract from her facial features. Tom wasn't much better. It baffled me that Tommy and Brenda weren't less attractive. Jerry removed her robe and dived into the pool. Returning my attention to Bruce's house, I noticed Cheryl and Robin on the porch swing, conversing quietly as headlights illuminated Bruce's residence. Tom, possibly returning from managing his restaurant, headed directly to the pool and began undressing. What did I do to deserve this? I muttered, observing Bruce's house until Tom joined the pool. They cozied up and embraced, their conversation barely audible. How's work, babe? Jerry inquired. Busy. I had to fire Juan for smoking dope on his break, Tom replied. Did you give him a warning? She asked. I heard something interesting today, Tom teased. Do tell. Jack kicked Robin out today, he announced. What? She exclaimed. Yeah, he actually kicked her out, Tom confirmed. Has he lost it? Those two would be lost without each other. I always thought she'd be the one to kick him out for his foul mouth, she remarked. You must be mistaken, Tom doubted. According to Tommy and Brenda, when they were cleaning the pool, they saw Bruce and Robin in his window, having sex. Jerry interjected. Yeah, Jack must have been home for some reason. They heard him yell profanity and saw Bruce and Robin quickly stop. Jack left and came back with an L's bag, changed the locks, and later called Robin promiscuous, Jerry relayed. I can't believe it, said Tom. I'll check on Jack tomorrow. I want you to stay away from Bruce. I've always noticed how he looks at you and Robin too closely. Just the thought of Bruce undressing Jerry mentally makes me shudder, Brenda added. She thinks highly of him, Jerry continued. She said she'd take Jack a cake tomorrow to cheer him up. She thinks he's crude, but I can't think of anyone else I'd want on my side. I saw him working by the mall this morning, Jerry said. Was he wearing a hard hat? Tom asked. Yes, she confirmed. You and your thing for construction workers. Maybe I can get Jack to model one for you, Tom teased. I shuddered again. Normally, a guy loves to hear a woman find him attractive, but for the first few weeks, I thought Tom and Jerry were a gay couple. Jerry can look quite manly, she added teasingly. She remarked, I can't understand why Robin would choose to sleep with Bruce when she has Jack. You're starting to give me a complex, Tom said. You're the only hunk for me, my hot man, Jerry assured him. Realizing they were about to make love, I decided to go to bed. I wasn't sure if I'd sleep, but I didn't want nightmares about Tom and Jerry. I turned on the radio for background noise and tuned into the heavy metal grindcore show on the college station. I listened to tracks by Carcass, Deicide, and Obituary. Before the show ended, they played Cannibal Corpse's Make Them Suffer. As I listened, I resolved that I wanted Bruce and Robin to suffer. Corpse Grinder Fisher's lyrics echoed in my mind. Make them suffer, make them suffer, make them suffer. And I vowed, I will, Corpse Grinder, I will. The next morning, someone pounded on my door. I shook off sleep and went to see who was disturbing me so early. I opened the door, ready to yell at Robin, but it was Cheryl Harris. Oh, it's you. What do you want? Robin's stuff isn't packed yet, I said. I don't want you to pack her stuff, Jack. I want you to let her come back home, Cheryl responded. And I thought you were going to ask for something unreasonable. I'm going back to bed, I replied, starting to close the door. But she blocked it. Wait, Jack, why are you doing this? Robin is hurting, and you won't consider her feelings, she asked. What's to consider? Church, we can't have Robin living with us, she begged. That's your. She wants to be with you and Bruce more than me. I'm letting her be with you and staying out of the way, I explained. Bruce and I can't have her living with us. We have an image to protect, she pleaded. You should have thought of that before dragging my wife into your sick game. Why can't she live with you? Really? You don't see a problem here? I questioned angrily. I gave her a chance to stay. She chose your husband over me. The worst part is you don't seem to care. But I do. Now leave me alone, I demanded. She still loves you, Jack. We didn't want to take her away from you. We love her, and we love you too, Cheryl insisted. He's dead to me. So is she, I stated coldly. You can't mean that, Jack. She can still take care of your needs, she tried to persuade. Oh, why didn't you say so sooner? I retorted sarcastically. I feed and house her, buy her clothes, a car, and everything she needs. She sleeps with you too, and I get a weekly romantic handshake. Bruce gets his fun without any cost. Screw that. Do I get intimacy with you? I asked pointedly. Sorry, Jack. I'm committed to one man, she replied. A one-man woman, I said bemusedly. Man, I sure could use one of those. Well, then that's what I need to find. Tell the promiscuous one her stuff will be out here in an hour. Come on, Jack, stop acting like a caveman. Bruce and I have an image to maintain for our church. We can't have Robin living with us, she begged. That's your problem's not mine. Get off my porch, Cheryl, I said firmly, closing the door behind me. Sounds like your problem. Sucks to be you. I slammed the door and went to make some bacon. Screw their image, I thought. I can't believe anyone thought I'd agree to this stupid idea. They want to look squeaky clean while having wild sex with my wife. Corpse Grinder's words echoed in my mind. Make them suffer. I called a coworker who had handled his divorce when he caught his wife with her brother. He gave me the name of a law firm, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, specializing in protecting men in divorces. I got an appointment for that afternoon. I packed all of Robin's clothes and toiletries into bags and placed them on the front porch. Adding some things I knew she'd want, I put her car keys under the floor mat and went to the bank. There, I canceled all the credit cards, closed our joint account, and opened a new one in my name. Discovering she had a card I didn't know about, I instructed the bank to send Bruce the bill. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I arrived at the law office. Hoping to meet David Crosby, known for his prowess in handling divorces, I was assigned Burt Young. He was scruffy, but his record spoke for itself. He reviewed my files without a word, then called his paralegal in to take my paperwork. Mr. Erickson, I think we can get you everything you want and take the preacher slow down a bit. Do you have photo or video proof? I asked. No, but the neighbor kids saw them too. I just want her out of my life, the paralegal explained. He brought in papers for me to sign, detailing each one and why it was necessary. He gave me a checklist of tasks, most of which I had already completed. I paid his retainer and went home to nap. Robin's belongings were gone when I returned home. A note was taped to my door, which I took inside and lay down on the couch. Springer was on, and the note from Robin begged to come home, with no mention of giving up Bruce. Bert and I decided to serve legal papers to her and Bruce at church on Sunday. I found the idea amusing and decided to attend. Over 50 messages were on my answering machine, all deleted with the help of beer. I slept well that night. The next morning, I set about fixing Bruce's situation. First, I called the city accounting department. I had allowed my crew to haul several loads of gravel to Bruce's church for free, keeping the tier slips. Now I knew why. Janice assured me the bill would be entered as unpaid, so Bruce would receive a call from collections. At $45 a ton plus $30 per load for transportation, Bruce now owed the city $7,500 for gravel. Additionally, I informed the water company supervisor about their non-compliant water meter. They would need to replace it $1,200. Bruce knew I had prevented them from paying for many things. Make them suffer, I thought to myself. I was determined to bankrupt the jerk. I was aware of several home projects Bruce hadn't completed properly. Building inspectors were now informed, and Bruce would pay dearly to rectify it all. I knew he'd call soon, and sure enough, he did at noon. "What are you trying to pull, Jack?" Bruce demanded. "What do you mean?" I asked innocently. "Building inspectors are telling me I have to redo the whole parking lot. You said everything would be fine," Bruce accused. "It seems I forgot to turn in some paperwork." "Don't worry, I'll be reprimanded," I replied calmly. "I hope they fire you," he retorted angrily. Just then, my supervisor walked in, aware of who was on the phone. "Jack, about that late paperwork. Remind me to put a scathing post-it note in your file," he said with a smirk. "I'll need a post-it to remind me to remind you," I joked. "Okay, Jack, try not to do it again," my supervisor quipped, leaving the room. "Oh, that was some reprimand, Jack," Bruce said sarcastically. "I'm surprised he didn't fine you a nickel." "He did file all my tear slips. Expect a bill, Bruce," I shot back before he hung up. That evening, I went to Mb's bar for a beer or three. Many city workers and cops were there, and by 11 p.m., most had heard my story. A full-on campaign was underway. A cop buddy mentioned Bruce might get pulled over more often, and a friend from the fire department suggested the church might be added to the inspection list on Monday, and the fire marshal would give it full attention. "These churches are always out of date on something," he said. "Usually, we don't enforce the code too harshly, but Tony might consider the safety of the congregation." Sheila Torres from the county clerk's office added, "The assessor might find an error in Bruce's property tax assessment, leading to a past due amount. Make them suffer." Indeed, Saturday morning I worked in my garage. The backyard was no sanctuary with the half-dressed neighbors and the swinging pricks behind them. I was restoring a cabinet when I heard a noise behind me. I turned, expecting Robin, but saw Brenda. "Hi, Jack. I mean, Mr. Erickson," Brenda greeted. "What do you need, Brenda?" I asked, noting her attractive figure but quickly reminding myself of her questionable activities with her brother. "I have a video you might find useful, taken a week ago," she said, handing me a USB stick. Her hand lingered in mine, and my eyes momentarily strayed to her chest before I looked back at her face. She had a look of lust that she blinked away. "I have chores to do, but the video might help your case, Mr. Erickson," she added. "I'll check it out, Brenda. Thanks for bringing it," I replied. She turned and left, looking back over her shoulder. "My pleasure to help, Jack. Have a good one," she said. She had never called me anything but Mr. Erickson before. Erickson. I slipped the USB stick into my pocket and resumed my tasks. I finally mowed the lawn, enduring Robin's screaming from Bruce's balcony. I made a note to buy a loud MP3 player. Tom and Jerry didn't call the cops, and the family opted for the air conditioning. At 5 p.m., I headed to Joe's Pit Barbecue for their rib platter. While eating, John Brandon, Cheryl's brother and an engineer for the City County Road Department, spotted me. John and I had always gotten along well, though I wasn't sure where he stood on my current situation. Pretending not to notice him, he told Ramona, Joe's wife, he had a to-go order and paid. Next thing I knew, John was at my table. "Hi, Jack," he greeted. "Haven't seen you in ages." "John," I replied, "I've been busy. Every time we clean up one storm, another rolls through." "Yeah, I hear that. We're opening bids next week for replacing the Johnson Street Bridge. You guys will get some work, but the commissioners want contractors to handle most of it," he informed me. "That would be nice. We need to fill 100 potholes and repair 3 park irrigation systems. How's life treating you?" I asked, unsure if he was probing for information or unaware of my predicament. We made small talk for a few minutes before he got to the point. "I understand my brother-in-law's church is under scrutiny, and he'll be paying the city a lot for upgrades. Glad someone is stepping on that dirtbag's toes. Remind me not to get on your bad side, Jack," he said, clapping my shoulder. "See you around, Jack." He got his food and left. I finished my meal, stopped at Chang's Liquor for a bottle of vodka, and went home about to watch TV. I remembered the USB stick Brenda had given me. I popped it into my laptop and saw only one file. Opening it, I saw Brenda leaning out her bedroom window wearing nothing below the waist and pleasuring herself. "Oh babe, you turn me on. I'd love to jump on your meat," she said with my lawnmower sound in the background. I remembered her watching me. Mow several times on screen. She climaxed and shook with ecstasy. I was about to fast forward when Tommy entered the room. "Hold it, young lady. Are you giving pleasure to yourself?" I cringed, knowing I was a fixture in the McBain household. "I am Tommy. Pretend you're him. Screw me and make me believe it's him." I skipped ahead, and soon the screen showed Robin, Bruce and Cheryl in a menage a trois on their terrace. I felt stupid for not noticing them. Just 50 yards away now. I Had evidence for my divorce I called in a favor from a friend. The video would serve another purpose before court for the first time in ages. I was up early on Sunday ready for church after coffee and a bagel. I drove to Vinewood Presbyterian Church. In the parking lot I saw others who likely didn't frequent Bruce's services. I followed them in and took a seat. I caught the eye of Robert Donovan, who managed the audio-video system. Robert owed me a few favors. I checked the Buick and my moment would come after the offering. The choir entered with Cheryl and Robin close together. Bruce babbled about forgiveness without mentioning the seventh commandment. We sang a few hymns, and then the offering plates were passed. Once gathered, they went to Robert at the console, who counted the money. During the sermon 10 minutes later, Bruce prayed to welcome newcomers and asked guests to introduce themselves. My 3 guests stood and went to the pulpit. Bruce shook hands with each and handed them the mic. A young brunette spoke first. "I'm here to see Sher Harris." Cheryl came forward looking puzzled. The brunette handed the mic to a pimply-faced red-haired kid. "I'm here to see Robin Erickson," he said. Robin joined. Cheryl Pimples handed the mic to their boss's son, Neil Young. "Bruce Harris, Cheryl Harris, and Robin Erickson, you have been served." They handed documents to the shocked trio. Bruce grabbed his mic and, after asking, "Why have you defiled my sanctuary?" Robert streamed the video clip on the big screen behind the pulpit. The image of Bruce, Cheryl, and Robin unclothed on the patio shocked the congregation. Several elderly ladies reached for their phones, likely to call the authorities. One brave elderly lady even struck Bruce with her cane. Robin reacted hysterically, while Bruce remained frozen in place. I swiftly made my way to the exit, but as I turned, Robin and Bruce spotted me. Robin rushed towards me, while Bruce stayed behind. I hurriedly left, only to be confronted by a police officer days later. Once the commotion settled and the district attorney declined to press charges against me, Bruce installed a privacy fence as mandated by his restraining order. This order prohibited me from approaching his church except for official city business, ensuring he couldn't harass me. Robin's only communication with me was through Burt Young. Sonny Bono, our assistant district attorney, found amusement when I mentioned discreetly placing the USB stick in the collection plate for Robert. Bruce's attempt to charge me with trespassing over this public service gesture failed. Robert lost his job but quickly found a position at another church. Burt Young informed me that we were scheduled to appear before Judge Sonia Kagan in 2 weeks to initiate proceedings. Known for her strict approach, Judge Kagan typically favors the wife in such cases. Despite owning the house, I was concerned about potential alimony payments due to accusations of infidelity. Meanwhile, my direct supervisor, a recent college graduate, entrusted me with full autonomy, appreciating my competence in managing my responsibilities without interference. Knowing I handle everything well, other supervisors are more hands-on but still involved. Marvin Taylor, however, runs the worst quad in town, doesn't trust his leads, and never helps his crews. Most guys would rather pull their ball hair out with pliers than spend 5 minutes with him. Rumor has it he has dirt on someone in city council or was the mayor's lover, which explains his job security. Today Marvin showed up in my office. If he managed a 5-minute conversation without being a xenophobe or offender, it had snow 5T tomorrow despite it being almost the 4th of July. So Jackie boy, I hear you're getting a divorce. Did she catch you with your schlong and the cat's poop shoot? I wasn't about to tell him the truth. No, I just got tired of her crap. Do you have a judge yet? Yeah, Judge Kagan. That which she screwed my son in his divorce, gave his promiscuous the house and kids, and Jeff has to pay for both. I hope you have a good attorney. Jeff had some curiosity. How many have used the excuse of wanting to know what a bigger meat felt like? As she managed to recall 2 races in one go, I wondered if he ever talked like this in front of Jimmy Colorado State. Mostly at parties. Willie Barnes Jimmy who played linebacker was a staple of Giants. Despite intimidating 45-year-old after a few beers, hosted it to Ogle College and high school girls. He was arrested. Bathroom years later for assaulting the bartender had to ask with charges sticking for 3 Robins. College kids. Jimmy was special, but he wouldn't find farmers actually Jimmy even though half the opposing team had stomach flu. I wasn't needed to check on Marvin's time for the city. I quietly thanked Jimmy for his timely appearance in 2 weeks. One day we were told not to clean up. I doubted Jimmy could save me so we could party. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad in court. Twice my friend Jerry Flinching invited me to the bash at his cousin. Ordered Willie's counseling when I refused. By 11 o'clock I was jailed. I turned to crowd had disappeared. Though therapy isn't happening full, I figured I just wanted to be rid of this parking lot. And I walked out, stopped in front of his head Cheryl and occupied car, and proceeded to relieve myself on the grill. As I finished, I finished, had dwindled as Bruce's 2 services turning on the headlights. The guy inside had become blurred for 10 plus 3 giving him headlocked eyes with from the main church. Apologized and headed back to Bruce. The choir of 20 was now Cheryl, Robin, and Charles Brown. The fire and moved to avoid her passing. She by that excuse, if I knew me, they all had to shake my hand. It was known as their love. Though only one really knew me from giving him a jump start. I feel neglected. I worked 7 a.m. to 4. I thought the hand brushed my hips. I turned to had only been called away at night 4 times. I found a note in my jeans pocket. First time like Bruce saw as much as I curiosity. I heard he had Robin. A phone number was written at the bottom. I spent the day cleaning up debris, wondering if the note was genuine. During my final break, I decided to call. Hello, answered a voice. Hi, may I speak to Robin? I asked. Check, not here. Can I take a message? The voice replied, tell her the guy from the party called, and he liked what he saw. I said, leaving my number, wondering if I'd given it to someone else that evening. As I settled in to watch a taped Bronco game, my phone rang. Yeah, I don't know your name, but I've seen your package, said a gruff but feminine voice. I thought it might be a prank. Should I just call you Moby back? I asked. Nope, Jack will work just fine. She responded, Robin, is it? I asked for confirmation. Yes, it's Robin. Sorry, my voice is hoarse from yelling at the game yesterday. She explained, yelling at the game. Would you like to meet at Frankie's in an hour? I'd like to see your face better and show you this isn't a prank. I suggested, sure, I'll be there. In an hour, wearing a Shannon Sharp jersey and jeans, she agreed. Okay, that's number 13 for the Chargers, right? I teased. No, number 84 for the Broncos. What will you be wearing? She clarified. She described her outfit, and 45 minutes later, I was at Frankie's Cafe watching the door. I wasn't wearing my jersey in case I needed to slip out. 20 minutes later, she walked in exactly as described, looking hot. I felt like a schmuck for not wearing my jersey. I stood and waved, and she headed my way, dismissing a few guys who stopped her. Funny-looking Bronco jersey Jack, afraid of getting tricked. She teased. Honestly, I wanted an escape if you weren't as advertised. I admitted. I can't blame you, she said. We drank coffee and ate pie until closing, then said goodnight. We dated for a month before getting physically engaged. The night I planned to make my move, I called Bruce to tell him I was getting serious with a girl. He advised making sure our feelings were true to avoid heartache. Ironically, 10 years later, she broke my heart. Because of him, I realized I had chuckled out loud when Robin and Dr. Landers looked at me like I just ruined their fruit salad. Do you find amusement in Robin's pain, Mr. Erickson? Dr. Landers asked. More in my own. I believe I owe Gary Wayne an overdue apology, I replied. Robin looked puzzled. She had dated Gary once. Quickly moved on to Justin Lore, the guy she was with at the party 2 days later. Rumor had it Gary wasn't well endowed enough for her. Why would you owe him an apology? Robin asked. I might have punched him for telling the truth. I admitted. What truth? She inquired. He said Robin should be nicknamed Big Bird because she was always seeking a bigger branch to sit on. I explained. I don't understand, she said, still puzzled. She's a size queen, I clarified. Robin blushed angrily. She dumped Gary because he had a small wiener, then dumped Justin for me. Now she found out my ex-best friend has a larger one and jumped to him. It's just filthy. I elaborated. If you say it's just lovemaking, I'll leave and do my time in jail for contempt, I threatened. Robin and Dr. Landers were shocked. Dr. Landers collected herself. Robin, Neanderthal thinking, doesn't comprehend multiple love-making partners in a happy marriage. Dr. Landers began. What are you talking about? I asked, incredulous. Many happily married couples enjoy multiple partners. Some husbands even derive pleasure from watching their wife with a better endowed man, she explained. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. There aren't enough narcotics to make me enjoy this nonsense. I don't care what others enjoy. I'll never watch my spouse with someone else. I'd put a bullet in her head before cleaning up after her. I said, Jack, don't you owe it to yourself in your marriage to have a more open mind? No one said you have to watch her clean up, Dr. Landers suggested. Yeah, Jack, it would be so hot I could even service you after. Robin added. Screw you. You think I want Bruce's leftovers? Next you'll want me in pink lingerie while you and Bruce screw and sleep in a cage at the foot of the bed. I spat out angrily. Oh no, Jack, we'd let you sleep in your own bed. Robin responded. I'm out of here. I yelled. The receptionist was probably ready to call emergency. Mr. Erickson, you were ordered to attend these sessions. Failure to do so means jail for contempt. Dr. Landers reminded me I've been here an hour. I don't need to be here longer, I said, looking Dr. Landers in the eye. Tell the judge everything, I said. I don't care what she does. It'll be a cold day in hell before I get near that skank again, I added, pointing at Robin. I'll also talk to my lawyers about getting your license pulled. Leaving that building, I felt better than I had in ages. I drove straight to Bert's office. He looked alarmed when he saw me. Please tell me you didn't eliminate anyone, he said nervously. I wanted to, but I didn't. I probably said some things they didn't like. I told him about the session and the rehearsed feeling I got from it. I told him about the counselor's attitude towards me. Jack, you're not the first to complain about this. Complaints just get swept under the rug. I would have warned you, but I'd likely get hit with tampering charges. I'm not going back, Bert. That Jabba the Hutt can jail me if she wants, but I'm not sitting through 3 more hours of this crap, Bert said. He'd have David Crosby make some calls. Stay out of trouble, Jack. We'll get this over soon. I went home wanting a few stiff drinks, but there was a red mark on the calendar. I had 3 years since it was early afternoon, and I wouldn't be back on duty until after 7 o'clock. I had dinner, watched TV, and drank beer. By the 6th inning of the ball game, a thunderstorm rolled in. I went to the porch and saw heavy black clouds moving over downtown, signaling a summer hailstorm that could keep roofing crews busy until Thanksgiving. Earlier summer storms had hit the north side hard, promising work for roofing contractors until October. As the storm raged and power outage reports came in, I prepared for a long night. My neighborhood got pea-sized hail, but calls confirmed golf ball and baseball-sized hail in Midtown. Eventually the call came. Instead of cleaning up hail, half the crew and I hauled sand and road base to the river dike, which was threatened by heavy rain. By 4 a.m., the Army Corps of Engineers declared the dike safe, and the county had the bridge under control. We spent another 3 hours hauling away sand and dirt from the storm. At 9 a.m. Friday, I pulled into my driveway knowing I wouldn't catch my wife with Bruce because I no longer had a wife. I was energized from coffee and energy drinks, but figured a shot of Jägermeister would help me sleep. After finishing the bottle, I lay on the couch to watch TV and fell asleep. I was awakened by knocking at the door. It was almost 11. And Brenda McBain was on my porch. What does she want? I wondered aloud. I turned on the porch light and opened the door. Sorry to bother you, Jack, but there's something you need to see. It might help with your divorce. I stood there trying to understand what she could show me. She looked hot in tight shorts and a yellow halter. She said something, turned and headed to her driveway. I followed her to her car and got in. As she drove in silence, I kept staring at her legs, which were much better than Robin's or Cheryl's. She caught me staring a few times and smiled. Brenda drove to a group of abandoned buildings downtown. The city had bought the buildings years ago, hoping developers would buy them, but sales were always nixed by a secret ballot from the Board of Trustees. It cost the city a lot to maintain and secure the properties. 2 years ago, a chain link fence was installed to keep people out. We parked at the old power plant, which had more cars than expected. Brenda, what are we doing here? We could get in big trouble if we're caught, I said, feeling uneasy. Come on, Jack, you'll see this will help you in a big way, Brenda assured. I couldn't see how trespassing would help my divorce, but I followed her. She walked through a cut in the fence and approached a basement window of the old King James Hotel. I caught up, and she pointed to a spot where light was coming through the window. What the hell, I muttered. I knew the building had no power yet. There was light inside. Looking through the window, I saw why Brenda had brought me. As I gasped, she handed me her camcorder. On the way home, Brenda explained how she discovered what was happening at the hotel. Tommy and I were spying on Bruce and Robin when he mentioned this place, so the next Friday night we followed them here. I was surprised Cheryl didn't come, she explained. So that was Friday night choir practice, I asked. Incredulous. Brenda looked embarrassed that I had found out another of my wife's secrets. Don't worry, Brenda I'll keep you and Tommy out of this. My beef is with the others. I reassured her, you know Tommy and I screw because we're too ugly for anyone else to want us. Brenda said, suddenly where did that come from? I wondered. I never questioned their activities. That can't be true. I bet many guys would love to be with you. I said, trying to comfort her. Maybe some guy would use me, but none want to be seen in public with me. I've had 3 boyfriends who dated prudes and met me in secret. They call me bummerface. And a 3-bagger, 1 bag on my head, 1 on his in case mine falls off, and 1 by the door. I'm good enough for secret lovemaking, but not to date or show off, she lamented. Come on, Brenda, it can't be that bad. If I were your age, I'd be all over you, I said, feeling like an idiot for lying. But she was on the verge of tears, and it helped me a lot. You've helped me tremendously. I'd like to take you to dinner tomorrow, get dressed up, and I'll pick you up at 7. Okay? You don't have to pity me, Jack. Besides, I'm going to Denver tomorrow and won't be back until Sunday evening, she responded. It's not pity. How about a rain check on dinner? I offered. She agreed, and I went inside. I had the leverage I needed. In the morning, I'd make some calls. By Thursday, everything was in place. I called Bert first. Well, I have to warn you that what you're doing is considered extortion, but I think it will work, he said. That judge always orders the things she does, I replied. Next, I called Mike Starr, a high school buddy, an investigative reporter. I gave him the video and details. He had heard rumors and planned to stake out the hotel and bust them live on TV Monday morning. I proposed a plan to the head of the city maintenance department. It would solve a storage problem and restrict hotel access. He liked it. Since the city owned the property, we just needed to request it with the zoning office. No board involvement was needed because we were reappropriating land, not selling it. The fences wouldn't cost more than $150,000, so no budget request was needed. As I left his office, he told me he was recommending me for a promotion. You saved us at least $500,000. If this gets done, great thinking, Jack. I need more thinkers on my staff, he said. By Wednesday, we had all approvals and permits. I was put in charge of overseeing the move and upgrades. A 10-man crew was signed, and the project would be done in 3 weeks. Thursday morning, we started moving fencing material to the old power plant parking lot. We'd used land behind the hotel for snowplow storage and a new sand depot. I left work at noon for counseling with Dr. Landers at 12:30. I walked into the reception room. The receptionist gave me a dirty look and called into her boss's office. 5 minutes later, I was buzzed in. Dr. Landers looked so smug, making it all the more enjoyable for me. Mr. Erickson, I'm surprised to see you early. I'm glad we can have a few minutes for one-on-one before the session. Dr. Landers said, one-on-one is a new concept, huh? I remarked. Excuse me, Mr. Erickson, she asked, confused. I just came to tell you I won't attend this sham anymore or pay for it, I declared. She looked annoyed. Then smug. Judge Kagan ordered your attendance. You go to jail. For screw you, I'm not coming back, I interrupted. Mr. Erickson, watch your mouth, she warned. Tell the gig is up. I know about your Casanovas Club at the King James, and my buddy Mike Starr will soon too. Legal and ethical agencies will be curious why a family court judge and counselor run a love-making club. All those cheaters getting favorable rulings in Kagan's court will be exposed. I threatened. There is no such clue, she began, but I cut her off. Don't lie, I saw the elk head with contraceptives on its antlers, I said. Her face paled as I ranted. I didn't tell her Mike Starr already knew and had video proof. Judge Kagan and her husband stood to lose the most. He worked in the DA's office, and Ston Moore to Jim Morrison wouldn't tolerate embarrassment at the door. I looked back at the dejected Dr. Landers. Screw you, I repeated before leaving. 20 minutes later, Robin was with Dr. Landers. I was nervous when the door buzzed. 10 minutes after my session with Jack was supposed to start, Bruce and my attorney Justin Bieber assured me that Dr. Landers and Judge Kagan would either convince Jack to accept my situation or make the process so drawn out he'd give up. I wore a shorter skirt, no-ho styled my hair the way he liked, and wore the perfume he bought me. Dr. Landers looked stricken when I walked in. Jack wasn't there, and I assumed he had been dismissed. I was upset I wouldn't see him. Despite his hate, I still loved him. I couldn't walk down our street or be on the balcony while he was home. Is Jack risking jail to avoid the session? I asked. I knew she didn't like macho men like Jack, especially with his attitude and foul mouth. There's no session today, Robin, I'll call when I know more. She buzzed the door open. I wondered what had shaken her. I drove to the church to see Bruce with extra time. I looked forward to the Casanova Club the next night. Bruce would be in my bum while Terry Kagan screwed me. Just the thought made me hot. If I found Bruce alone at the church, he'd get jumped. I wish Jack would join, and the thought of Jack and Bruce doing me at the same time almost made me climax. I could even smell my own arousal at the church. Bruce was on the phone and looked in a foul mood. The look he gave me said I'd have to wait. That was Terry. There will be no club meeting tonight. Jack found out and threatened to call Mike Starr. I'm regretting hooking up with you, Robin. Your holes aren't worth the trouble. I was stunned a few months ago. He wanted me every day, saying I was better than Cheryl. Now, with a little pushback from Jack, I was suddenly out of favor. After dinner, my attorney called. He said we had a hearing in the morning. He thought it could be a good sign, possibly indicating Jack had dropped the divorce petition. I asked if it could be a contempt hearing for Jack. Justin doubted it. If Jack was being called, we wouldn't have been ordered in. He told me to sleep well, feeling positive about tomorrow. Bruce cheered up a bit. Maybe someone pressured him to keep quiet. There are powerful people in that club. Jack has balls, but no clout. The lovemaking was incredible that night. I climaxed a dozen times. Bruce, Cheryl, and I had a great time. At 10 a.m. I was in Judge Kagan's courtroom. Jack's attorney and another man were there, but Jack was absent. I asked Justin if Jack would be in trouble for not showing up. Not likely. He might be licking his wounds. I don't understand why Graham Nash is here. He hasn't been in a courtroom in 6 years. Something's definitely up. Judge Kagan called the court to order Jack's attorney, and Nash asked to approach. Justin joined them, and they talked at the bench for at least 20 minutes. Justin looked troubled when he Returned, and before I could ask, the judge banged her gavel and announced that in 90 days my marriage to Jack would be dissolved. I would receive no alimony or support, only 25% of Jack's retirement and 40% of our liquid assets. Justin explained that Judge Kagan granted Jack's petition for divorce. The next thing I knew, an EMT was helping me to a seat. Ma'am, how many fingers am I holding up? Within 3 weeks, everything had fallen apart. The news exposed to the Casanova's Club, leading to Judge Kagan's removal and potential charges. Her husband was fired and charged in a pills-running scheme. Justin Bieber was disbarred for having love-making with male clients and throwing for Judge Kagan. He was also involved in the pills ring. Dr. Landers was ordered to repay 30 clients and was later found dead with her husband in a homicide self-destruction. Bruce was asked to resign from his ministry. With his severance barely covering moving expenses, Cheryl filed for divorce after catching him giving pleasure for himself while watching the McBain sisters swim. Bruce blamed me for everything and decided not to take me with him. I moved into a small apartment with Cheryl until we got back on our feet. I used most of the money from Jack to set up our utilities and help Cheryl hire an attorney. Bruce tried to hire Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but they refused. He ended up with a no-name lawyer and got cleaned out by Cheryl. Last I heard, he was preaching in Iowa. I got a job with an accounting agency after my divorce. Cheryl worked for a contractor and started dating one of his workers. I didn't want to date anyone. I wanted Jack. Occasionally I walked past our old street and saw the for sale sign in the yard 2 weeks ago. I saw it had sold. Distraught, I went to buy comfort food, mainly hog Andes and chips Ahoy. Passing the frozen dinner section, I saw Jack buying a frozen pizza. Before I knew it, I was groveling in the store. I don't remember exactly what I said, but when I stopped to breathe and wipe my eyes, Jack looked embarrassed. As a small crowd gathered, he smiled, pointed to his bomb, and said, "Eat my crap and die." Then he walked away. I was in Las Vegas. I pulled my truck into the driveway and saw my lawn needed mowing. I'd wait until Saturday morning to beat the heat inside. My wife greeted me with a passionate kiss. "Hi baby, did you make sure the tourists and pensioners didn't cheat the big corporations?" She teased. My job as a slot machine technician always brought out my wife's sarcasm. "And when you graduate next month, you'll be working for the man, just like me, at least until you knock me up," I replied, adding to the banter. She kissed me again. "I'm glad you're home studying with the girls tonight." I asked. "Yes, but I'll have to watch Samantha around you. She can't keep her eyes off your bum." She joked. "I used to have a neighbor girl like that, always staring at my bum when I mowed the lawn." "Still can't believe Robin screwed Mr. Harris," I said, shaking my head. "Oh well, her loss my gain," Brenda said with a smile. "Indeed, Brenda, I'll go get us some pizza. I know how you college girls chow," I replied. She kissed me as I headed out the door. Brenda and I had been married for 3 years. I got to Vegas 3 days after leaving Stonemore. Some might think I was an a-hole for leaving Robin the way I did, but I couldn't trust her again. I slipped out after she fell asleep, paid for the room, and left her 3 days' time thanks to Noah's and Noah. I made it to Utah before sunrise and arrived in Vegas 2 days later. Within a week, I had a job and a place to stay. I used the money from selling my house and my retirement fund to buy a new house. 2 weeks later, Brenda showed up as planned. She had enrolled at UNLV during the weeks waiting for my house to sell and my divorce to finalize. Brenda and I spent a lot of time together. She'd bring food, we'd watch movies, and go out on weekends. The more I knew her, the more I liked her. I wasn't ashamed to be seen in public with her. When I told her about Robin begging me to take her back, she teared up. "Hey, I have no plans of going back to her, Brenda. I'm falling for you. I have a plan if you can stand being with an old man like me," I said gently. She was on me before I could finish that night. After 3 rounds, 1 fevered, 2 more relaxed, I laid out my plan. I expected Tom and Jerry to object, but they didn't. "Jack, you've always been rough, but I can't imagine our daughter in better hands," Tom said. "I know you'll treat her right and make her happy. She's loved you since the day you moved in." A year after moving to Vegas, Brenda made friends with a cosmetology student who taught her how to highlight her features. She changed her hairstyle and became quite attractive. We married after her freshman year. I told her she could date someone her age, but she didn't speak to me for a week. "You silly, stupid a-hole," she said when she started talking again. "I've only had eyes for one man. I watched as the wrong woman threw you away, and now I'll never let you go." I occasionally talk to people back home. Tom and Jerry keep us updated. Cheryl married a tile guy, had a kid, and moved to California. Robin returned to Stonemore after I left her in Wyoming. She married a rancher who kicked her out a year later for cheating. The kid behind the counter handed me my pizzas. "If I get them home quickly, Brenda might jump my bones before her study group arrives. I'll retire to my den and watch the Rockies on my MLB season pass. From one risky woman to another, my life is as good as a morning crap."